thanks for joining me. My name is Karalyn and I teach Pilates at the UMSL Rec Center. I'm going to lead you through a Pilates class today, and we're going to focus on the core as always, but we're also going to target a little bit of the legs and do some work for the shoulders as well. So it's going to be a great class if you've done my Pilates for the pelvis on this channel as well. This can be a great follow-up class or a good standalone one as well. So we're going to start standing today, so go ahead and join me now. We're going to start just with a nice even breath here. So we want to take those feet underneath the hips, and they can be pretty narrow to start. Let those arms just hang by the side, palms can face open. If you'd like a little bit of openness through the shoulders, take a close through the eyes, and let's go ahead and take a nice big inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth. Open mouth, exhale. Just slow down that breathing here. Inhale and exhale. Just starting to root those feet to the ground beneath you. Noticing maybe where that weight is placed. If you're a little bit forward on the feet, maybe finding center. If you're a little bit back, maybe moving a little bit forward. Just feeling the different points of the foot. Noticing the point underneath the big toe, the ball of the big toe, underneath the pinky toe, the ball of the pinky toe, and then underneath that heel, so that tripod of the foot, trying to feel that connection here as you're standing. Taking a few more breaths using that inhale through the nose to fill the lungs, and then exhale. Feel a little connection through those abdominals. Let's take one more. And exhale. Go ahead and open those eyes if they're closed. We're going to add a little bit of movement through those shoulders. So let's rotate those hands forward, rounding the spine. That gaze can tilt down, and then feel that pelvis tilt forward. So trying to reach that pubic bone for the belly button. And then exhale, we'll rotate the shoulders open, press the chest forward, reach the arms back, the gaze can lift. Same thing, we'll round forward, maybe adding the breath. Exhale. Inhale, rotate those shoulders open, chest forward. Feel that tailbone release behind you, a little bit of arch to the spine. We'll flow through that a few times here. Just starting to add some movement for the spine. A lot of us are really stiff here, especially if we've been sitting or staying in the same position for a while. It's really good just to lubricate those joints and all those little muscles along the spine. Take one more here, nice big inhale, open, and then exhale, we'll return through center. So we're gonna add a little bit of movement this time side to side. So just let those arms hang out next to you. We're gonna imagine we've got a pole through our belly button here. We wanna move that whole pole over to the left, and then come back through center, and then move that pole over to the right. So as you go, notice how your weight starts to shift towards that outside foot, right towards the hip you're leaning to. You'll have a little bit of extra weight in that foot. That opposite foot gets a little bit lighter. Good, and then really try to relax those shoulders. Let those arms just dangle. Trying to stay connected, again, through the tripod of the foot. So those 3 points underneath the ball of the big toe, the ball of the little toe, and underneath the heel. And as you go, you might notice my gaze is forward, right? So let's see if we can add that here. Trying to let that neck and gaze stay centered, providing a little bit of oppositional movement to those hips. So you might get a little deeper as you go in that shift side to side. Again, those arms are heavy, and just breathe wherever's natural here. And let's take one more to the left and the right, and then we'll come back through center. So we're going to add a little bit of arm movement with that, a little extra stretch. So let's take it over to the left, stay there, and then reach that left arm up. Feel some length through the side body, and then reach that right hand forward, really pulling that arm, pulling the fingertips, create some space in the chest. And then we'll release the hands, come up through center, over to the right. Shift the hips to the right. Reach that right arm up, that left arm forward so we feel length across the side body. And then that reach forward helps to activate those obliques a little bit and open the chest. Let's come all the way up. Try that one more time. So over to the left. Left arm goes up, right arm goes forward. That gaze stays forward as well. And then we'll come all the way up. Last one here. Over to the right. Right arm up. Left arm forward. Really reach. Find some space. And then exhale. Bring it all in. Now from here, we want to add a little bit of movement, a little bit of rotation. So we're working another plane of the body. So arms can again just be dangled by the side. Root through those feet, feel nice and sturdy there. We're going to start to rotate over to the left. So start to twist the body to the left. Let the ankles twist. That right knee can bend a little bit. And that gaze just goes with you. Come back through center and take it over to the right. Starting that twist from the ankles, doing a little twist through the legs, through the hips, through the belly, through the chest, the shoulders, and the gaze. Let's do that again here. Just nice and slow, finding your range of motion. Again, trying to stay connected with the feet. So the feet will move, right? We'll feel them and twist underneath of us, but try not to lift the arch of the foot up. Let's take one more to the right here. And let's come back through center. We're going to take this down to the mat. So we'll find an all fours position. So that means knees under the hips, hands under the shoulders. And then once you're here, spread the fingertips nice and wide and really press through the palms of the hands. We've got a nice sturdy support underneath of us. All I want you to do is let that chest drop down towards the hands. The shoulder blades will come together. And then we'll press into the hands to open the shoulder blades. Feel that movement around the ribs. So same thing, let the chest drop down. Those shoulder blades start to come together. And then press the hands into the floor to open the shoulder blades. So we're trying to keep the arms relatively straight here, as straight as we can, without hyperextending at the elbow. So just be mindful of that. And we want to allow those shoulder blades just to glide along the ribs. So we don't have to overthink it here. Just let gravity help you as those shoulder blades come together. And then resist the floor with the hands to bring them apart. So we're starting to find our shoulder girdle, those lovely muscles that help keep us in proper alignment, help our posture. On this next one, we're going to end with those shoulder blades apart. So feel as if we're gliding the shoulders away from the ears, so almost pressing them back and then pressing the floor away. So we've got some length and some lift. From here, I want you to reach that tailbone behind you. So try to pull the pelvis back as we pull the breastbone forward, and you probably won't move very much here, but we want to think length, so we're finding a little bit of extension of the spine. And then on your exhale, we'll let the belly pull in, the spine round, as the gaze tucks underneath, and then inhale, we find that same extension. So really reaching the pelvis away from the breastbone, find some length through the spine, and then exhale, reaching the back of the ribs for the ceiling. So flow through those positions a few times here. Still maintaining some connection around the shoulders, so still imagining that we're kind of pulling the heels of the hands down towards the knees, right, to find some connection underneath the armpits and around the ribs. Let's take one more each way. And then we're gonna end in our neutral spine. So just somewhere between those two positions, we feel the belly gently supporting the spine, and those hands are still strong underneath of us. We'll reach the right hand forward, trying to keep the chest open. As you do, maybe lifting that arm about shoulder height. Place the hand back down, over to the left. Reach the left arm forward, adding that lift and lower. We'll alternate sides here, trying to maintain that same openness through the chest so we don't collapse as one arm lifts. And just adding your breath, don't hold on to it. We'll take one more to the left. And then we're going to add opposite legs here. So reach the right arm forward, left leg back, lift it about hip height, and then set both limbs down. To the other side, reach forward and back at the same time, trying to maintain our balance here on the mat. Adding your breath, maybe an inhale to lengthen, exhale to lower. Let's try one more each side. Inhale, lengthen, exhale, lower. Last one. Setting that down, let's go ahead and set the hips back for the heels. Find our child pose position. We can walk the hands forward and try to reach the hips back, finding a little bit of length through the spine. And then we'll come up to that all fours just to transition here. So we'll tuck our feet underneath, swing those legs around, and we'll have a seat on the mat. So from here, let's go ahead and take a roll down. If you've done some before and you want to take a fancy roll down with those arms forward, roll yourself down, or you can plop down, however you want to get there. We're going to meet down on the mat. So once we're here, let's walk the heels in. We want those knees just about fist width apart, so they're in line with our hip bones. And then from here, let's go ahead and reach the hands up towards the ceiling. So feel those shoulders fall nice and heavy to the mat. We'll start by tucking our tailbone under, pulling that pubic bone towards the belly. So as you do, we should feel that belly reach down for the spine and that low back reach for the floor. And it might touch, it might not. We're aiming for that connection if we've got it. Once you're there, press into the feet. Start to roll the spine up to your bridge position. Trying to create a nice diagonal from the knees to the shoulders. And then we'll melt the spine down, starting at that breastbone. So trying to place the back of the ribs on the mat. Rolling down. The cats don't agree with this one. And then we'll rock the pelvis forward, finding that starting position. So exhale, tilt the pelvis towards the breastbone. So we feel the belly pull in, the low back connect. From there, press into the feet to roll the spine up. Find your bridge. And then exhale as you melt down. So the hands lifted just give us a little bit more of a challenge for the core and for the hamstrings as you lift up. If this feels a little too unstable, take the hands down. They can be your anchor. Either way is good with me, as long as you feel supported. That's what we're going for. Let's try one more here. Feeling that pelvis roll towards the breastbone, pressing the low back down, and then press into the feet. Feel the hamstrings connect to help lift you up. We're going to hold that bridge at the top. From here, release the hands up if they're on the ground, and then take them overhead at a wide V. Thumbs will point down. And then from here, we're going to start with that breastbone. Try to melt the abdominals down to the mat. Lengthening the spine, and then at the very last moment, we'll let that pelvis roll forward to release. Take the hands down to the hips. Start there. We'll roll the pelvis in, press into the feet, find our bridge. Hold that bridge position, lift the hands up, take it at a wide V, thumbs down. Hold the arms where they're at, start to melt down at the breastbone, trying to set the spine on the mat, finding length. And then at that last moment, release the pelvis and release the hands. Let's try 2 more. Rolling up. Inhale those arms overhead. And then exhale to melt the spine down. And hands to the hips. Last one here. Hopefully this feels really nice on the spine, especially if we've been sitting and our spine might feel a little compacted, a little tight. This can be a great one to open it up while also strengthening those hamstrings and the glutes. Exhale. And release. Let's take the hands to the side. Go ahead and sway the knees side to side. Let's just release any tension we may have built up in the spine. And then we'll take the legs back through center. Knees will stay pointed up. We're going to take the hands behind the head, interlace the fingers, and then go ahead and rest the head down. So let those elbows be wide. We don't have to force them wide, but just try to keep them away from the ears. We're going to inhale down here. Let that chin nod just a little bit so you've got some length at the back of the neck. And then exhale. Try to get rid of all your air as you curl up. And then inhale, set you down. Exhale, get rid of that air. Inhale, set you down. So we're thinking about a couple things while we're down here, beyond just the abdominal work, right? So you want to imagine that the back of the neck is long and the head is heavy in the hands. So we're not pulling on the neck to make this move happen. We can imagine that we've got maybe a bag of sand across our hips, keeping us heavy on the floor, right? Keeping that pelvis from rocking forward and back. And allowing those hips and the front of the hips to stay out of this, right? So to be a little bit more relaxed. We're not trying to grip at the front of the hips to make this curl happen. Let's take one more here. Exhale, curl. And then inhale, come all the way down. Let's release the hands, set them down to the mat. We're going to take the right knee, lift it up, and bring it just over the hips. We've got our tabletop position for this leg. I want you to go ahead and reach that leg for the ceiling. It does not have to go straight. And then take the leg down to the floor, drag the foot in, and lift up. So we're adding a little bit of movement now for the hips, warming them up here. If you're like me and you have a little bit of popping in the hip as you do this, a couple things you can try. If the toes are pointed up towards the ceiling and the foot is parallel, you might bring that heel in a little bit, let the toes point out. So we've got an external rotation at the hip. Sometimes that can open things up. We can also make this a little bit smaller of a movement. So instead of reaching the heel to the floor, we might go about halfway down and in. Let's try 2 more here. Just allowing the back of the hips to be heavy, the shoulders are heavy. And then once that foot is in, we're going to switch sides. So bring that left knee to tabletop. We'll find that position first. And then lengthen the leg up, reach the heel for the mat, and then drag the heel in. So we're not trying to add too much to this here and forcing that leg all the way straight if it doesn't want to be straight. We're forcing the leg all the way to the mat if the hips don't want to go that far. But just notice what's going on in the pelvis. If it's rocking forward and back, we might be a little bit tight through the spine, through the low back, or a little tight through the hips. So just Giving ourselves a moment to check in with the body. Let's take 2 more. And last one. And then we'll end with that foot on the ground, both knees bent. From here, we're going to take that right leg to tabletop, so find that same position. And then now we're going to get those abdominals involved a little bit more. So we'll feel those abdominals kick on to bring that left leg up. Both legs in tabletop from here. Option either to press the legs together, if that feels okay for the hips. If not, let the knees be a little bit wider and the feet stay together. So a little bit more of a diamond shape with those legs. From here, we're gonna let one leg drop down towards the floor and then exhale to lift it up. To the other side, inhale, drop down. Exhale, lift up. So as the leg starts to move away from the body, we should feel the core kick on, right? Starts to turn on to help that movement happen. So you want to try to imagine that the legs are almost weightless in this tabletop position. And then as they start to go down, instead of gripping at the front of the hips, we have those abdominals here to help bring that leg up. Last one here. Coming up. And then bring the knees together, hug the knees in, take the hands to the shins, give yourself a little stretch for the spine and for the hips. From here, let's reach that left leg down the mat. And it can stay bent if this feels like a nice stretch for the spine, or we can lengthen that leg out, get a little bit more stretch for the front of the hip, for that straight leg, and then for the back of the hip for the bent leg. So let's just pause here for a breath or 2. Letting that left leg be heavy. Down on the mat. And then we'll take the left hand to the outside of the knee. That right hand's going to come down to the floor. And then let's guide that leg across the body so the hip will start to lift. As you go, try to keep that right shoulder down. That gaze can stay up towards the ceiling, or we can look at the right hand. But from here, we're getting a stretch from the spine, a little stretch for the outer hip. And then let's come back through center. Set the foot down over to the other side. So bring that left knee in. Reach the right leg long if you'd like that extra stretch for the front of the hip. And we'll pause here with a breath or 2. And then we'll take the right hand to the outside of the knee, bring the left hand to the floor, and then guide the leg across the body. Let that hip start to lift up, but try to keep that left shoulder down so that we find the spiral and the twist for the spine. And then we'll bring that all back through center. Let's go ahead and hug both knees in. And then we'll grab behind the thighs and then slowly rock ourselves up to seated. We're going to flip those legs around. And then let's come laying down on the belly here. So we're going to do a little bit of work for the postural muscles and for the spine. We can come down through our modified or kneeling position, or we can tuck the toes under, find a plank here, a little extra challenge, and then bend the elbows to slowly lower down to the mat, finding ourselves on our belly. We'll untuck the toes, and then let's go ahead and take the forearms just wider than the mat. The hands are going to be in front of the shoulders here. And the gaze can just hover over the mat. So all I want you to do, keeping the hands and the forearms down, is to lift the gaze, lifting the spine, and seeing if we can still keep the low ribs on the mat. And then exhale, we'll lower down. Inhale, find our lift. Exhale to lower. So nothing crazy going on here. So I'm going to give you a few more things to think about. So as you lift, can we imagine that the back of the neck is growing a little bit longer? And we're trying to reach that breastbone, again, away from the pelvis. So we're finding some length through the spine, not just lift, not just extension. So it's similar to what we did kneeling, right? When I asked you to reach the pelvis away from the breastbone. We should feel a similar sensation here. And if there's anything negative in the low back, I suggest taking those legs a little bit wider, giving you a wider base of support. And you might also try connecting the pubic bone down to the mat. So if you feel the belly really pressing into the mat, see if we can send a little energy further down. So we find just a little bit of a tuck of the tailbone and a little bit of a tilt of the pelvis here. Let's try one more. And then we'll come all the way down. We're going to keep that gaze hovering. This time release the hands back behind you. Palms will be up. And then let's go ahead and rest all the way down. So forehead down, fronts of the shoulders down. Inhale here. And then we'll reach the fingertips back, start to roll the shoulders open, start to lift that chest away from the mat, lifting the gaze, and then exhale, set you all the way down. So same sensation of the breastbone lengthening away from the pelvis, but now we don't have those hands to help us, right? So a little bit added challenge. Feeling the shoulders roll open, the collarbones grow wide, and your your lift can be small. It doesn't have to be huge here. I want you to think more length than anything. Let's try one more. And then we'll lower down, bring the hands underneath the shoulders. Use the hands to press us up to all fours, and then we'll sink the hips back, find our child's pose, allow that back to stretch. Let's just take a few breaths here. And then press the hips forward. We'll come laying down on the right hip here, facing forward. And then we're going to come all the way down to the mat on our side. And we can either tuck that bottom arm underneath of us here for a little support for the head, or if you'd like to lay all the way down the bicep, you can try that here. We're going to keep the bottom knee bent, and I want you to find that same tabletop position that we did when we were on our back. So the knee should be in front of the hip, and the shin can line up with the mat. So we've got that nice sturdy position. And then we should feel our hips pretty stacked here, so one on top of the other. And then ideally our shoulders are one on top of the other as well. We can bring that top hand down here for support. We're gonna lift the top leg. Let's flex the foot and point the toes forward so that kneecap should point forward as well. We're gonna bring that whole leg in front of us and then point the toes, send the leg back. Flex the foot, bring the leg forward, point the toes, bring the leg back. So flowing through these two positions here, trying to keep that leg relatively level with the ground. And if you want to add on here, you can take that top arm, reach it up towards the sky. And just remember that bottom leg is there for support, but it's still working, right? It's working to keep us balanced. Good, really sending energy through that top leg, trying to grow longer as you do this. Last one. Let's take it forward and back. If we can keep that leg lifted, keep it lifted and then center it with the body. We're going to take the leg up and down here. It might tap the floor even, lifting up and down. Good. As you go, really thinking length through those toes. So you might even find a little space underneath the bottom waist. Let's try 2 more. And last one. Good, we'll lift just about hip height and then bend the knee, bring it in. Take the hand down. This time we're going to lengthen the bottom leg. So send it underneath of you here, and that top knee can rest down. If that floor feels really far away, you can grab a pillow or a towel to give you a little support underneath the knee. From here, top hand can stay down. We're going to flex that bottom foot and then rotate the heel for the ceiling. So really trying to press into that heel, almost taking that knee away from the ground. And then we'll lift the heel up maybe an inch or 2 and down. Lifting up and down. So we should feel the inner thigh for the bottom leg. Since we've got that leg in external rotation, adding whatever breath you need to here, just don't hold on to it. Last 2 and 1. Good, we'll set that leg down, release those toes. We're going to do a stretch here. So let's take the arms out to a T. We're going to roll onto those shoulders, and if that top knee lifts off the ground, that is fine. We should feel a nice stretch through the outer thigh. And again, it mimics that one we did earlier. We just got to it in a different way. So let's stay here for another breath. And then let's roll forward. Take the hands underneath of you. Use those hands to press yourself up. And then we'll swing those legs around, coming onto the other side. So position yourself here, trying to mimic what you did on the other side as much as you can. We're going to bend that bottom knee again, find that tabletop position. So knee in line with the hip and shin in line with the mat. Hips are stacked, shoulders are stacked, and then we'll lift that top leg up. From there, flex the foot, send the leg forward, point the toes, and send the leg back. So since we're moving this leg, right, we're challenging our balance here. So the bottom leg again is working to keep you supported. Your abdominals are working to keep you supported here. And that top hand is a little bit of an anchor. If you want to challenge that support, lift that top hand up. Good, and keep moving with the leg. Adding your breath. Feeling the belly gently pull in as the leg goes back, so we don't fall backwards, right? We've got that support there. Those abdominals help us. Let's try one more front to back. Good, and then we'll bring the leg down to tap the floor, and then lift up. Good, and down. So the leg is centered with the body. This doesn't have to be a huge lift. I again want you to think length. So trying to reach that leg as long as you can away from the head. Maybe creating some space under the bottom waist. Let's try 2 more. And last one. Good. And then let's bend the knee, bring it in, take the top hand down. We're gonna lengthen the bottom leg, set the top knee for the floor, and we're focusing on that inner thigh. So bottom leg, that foot flexes, the heel rotates up, and then we lift the entire leg, trying to lift it away from the mat and down. So we're lifting from that high inner thigh and really reaching through that heel. So creating as much length as we can through the leg. Let's try 2 more. And last one. Good, and then set the toes down. We'll find our stretch on this side, so releasing those arms, bringing the arms out to a T, rolling onto the shoulders, And allowing that knee to lift as needed. We can add a little pressure down if we want to deepen the stretch for the outer thigh. But let's take a breath or two here. Breathing into the ribs. And then from here, let's continue that rotation. So let's roll onto the spine. Set our hips underneath of us, realigning ourselves on the mat. We're going to practice our roll-ups from this position. So we've engaged the core throughout class, especially even on that side, right? Using the core for balance. So we're going to need it again here. So we're going to have the feet a little further out than when we did in our bridge position. We're going to take the arms up towards the ceiling. Inhale the arms back. And then exhale, arms forward, lift the head, start to roll up, finding the thighs as needed, coming to our seated position, reaching the hands forward, finding length through the spine, and then exhale, start to roll on that pelvis as we curl back. Rolling down with control, inhale, arms overhead, exhale, arms forward, rolling up and tall. Making sure you have some room here to go back. Let's take a couple more. Using that breath to help you, the exhale can really help to bring you up. So using it at that toughest spot, wherever that is for you. Let's try one more. We'll meet at the top, growing tall, and then let's release the hands down. We're going to lengthen the legs forward, and then you can use the hands to really get our sits bones underneath of us, so really feel nice and tall here. In this position, if you kind of feel like you want to roll back or that pelvis doesn't want to stay underneath of you, add a little bit of bend through the knees. That's always an option, especially if those hamstrings feel tight. If wherever you're at, go ahead and flex the feet, really pressing down with the heels. We're going to reach the arms forward and then feel them lengthen down out of the ears. And from here, we're going to stretch that spine forward. So exhale, start to round forward. Still reaching the hands as if you're going to grab onto something here. Lifting the back of the waist up as you do. And then inhale. We restack the spine and grow tall. Exhale, start to curl forward, but imagine the back of the belly wants to reach up and back. So we get a little oppositional stretch here. Let's try a couple more here. Still feeling those shoulders down and forward. And last one. Just enjoying that space we're creating in the spine. And then we'll come all the way up. From here, let's tuck our knees underneath. We'll find that all fours position just for a moment. Just maybe notice if anything feels different here. Maybe flow through those shoulder glides, so allowing the chest to come down. Lift up, maybe that movement's a little bit easier to find. Or maybe it's the same, but just noticing, checking in for a moment before we move on. And then let's just come to our neutral. So it's nice and supported here. We're gonna tuck the toes underneath of us. Let's walk the hands about a palm print forward. And then from here, we're gonna hover the knees just about an inch or so. So feel that core connect. And then from there, press the hips high. Start to send our weight back towards our feet, finding our downward dog position. So from here, maybe bending one knee as the other heel reaches for the ground, getting a little extra stretch side to side. Can even allow those hips to sway a little bit. As we do this, just get some movement in this position. And then let's go ahead and bend both knees. And then lengthen the legs. Let's try one more. And then from here, we're going to walk our hands to our feet. So start to shift our weight back, walking hand over hand. Finding a forward fold, taking as much bend through the knee as you need here to bring the chest closer to the thighs. And then allowing the head and the arms to be heavy. Let that pelvis start to bring you up. Rounding the spine, feeling the belly gently pull in. And the head is the last thing to lift. And then let's face forward. We're going to end just with a little bit of balance work here. So take the heels together, toes apart. That's our Pilates V, right? That position here. And then the hands can just hang out by the side. We're going to let the feet stay on the mat as we bend the knees, find a little plie position. And then as we straighten the legs, keep going, lifting onto the toes. Holding that there, maybe lifting the arms up. And then everything sets down, hands and heels. Let's try that 2 more times. So we'll bend the knees, keeping the feet on the floor. And then as you lengthen the legs, keep going, sending the weight to the toes, lifting the arms, nice big inhale. And then exhale, set it down. Last one here. Bend the knees. And then lengthen, lift up, inhale. Woo. And then exhale, come all the way down. Thank you for joining me today. If you haven't checked out my other videos, I hope you do. And